What's up guys, back from vacation. I want to do a quick video real quick talking about my glue pot. I've had a ton of conversation about that, both on YouTube, Instagram, emails about it. It seems to be of high concern for most people on there as far as what's on this glue pot, why it's that way, why I don't get another one. So what I want to do in this video is just kind of talk about why my glue pot's like that. So we're going to get into that and we're going to talk glue pots in this episode. Alright guys, so this is actually what these things look like before they get like this. When you're working in a shop full time and doing that kind of thing, your glue pot tends to get kind of messy. You tend to sling a lot of glue everywhere. And so it's just kind of something that happens. I should have done probably a better job over the years of cleaning it. Now it's going to be virtually impossible to get all that off of there. But actually it over the years has kind of become an advantage to me. One of the main reasons is when you've got glue in one of these and you're going to leave for the weekend or you're going to leave something like that, I would tell guys working for me or anybody in the shop, you would always take this and just run a little glue around there and then set your lid down. If you do that, it'll create a seal around there and your glue won't dry out as bad. So the air can't get in there because the lid is basically glued on. You come back after the weekend or after a week of vacation or whatever you're doing and it'll pry right open and you've got nice fresh glue in there. Freddie doesn't use his glue pot a ton. He usually just uses mine because it's over there on the glue table. But when he needs it and I'm busy with mine putting a seat in or something, he has this one. That's why we got it. He had one years ago. We had 3 or 4 of them running around and then they just dry out and get nasty. So, but if you'll do that, that glue will last a lot longer than just kind of just setting it on there or leaving it like that where you've got an air gap. You definitely don't want to do that because if you're going to be gone 3 or 4 days, that glue in there will start to thicken and get kind of nasty. And then so on this one it actually does get kind of crazy where I've got tons on here, and you know that was just from yesterday. I used this glue pot yesterday and now it's already kind of, you know, you get too much on top and it makes it pretty difficult to get the deal out sometimes. So I try to keep it trimmed. I usually trim just whatever's nasty on top. I'll trim it with just some hoof nippers or something like that just to cut away. It is kind of ridiculous, but it's something that I've always had and I haven't wanted to give up on her, and so I just keep using it. It's kind of nasty looking. It's kind of cool. You know, that's 10 years, 15 years of glue used out of this thing, and so it's just kind of a collection. Don't necessarily have, you can definitely keep yours a lot cleaner if you prefer that. Some people, if you got an OCD issue or something like that, it might drive you crazy to have a glue pot like this. But now the glue that I use, I just use the weldwood contact cement from Lowe's. I used to use it years ago. The man that taught me to build saddles, that's all he would use. We just go down to Lowe's or Walmart and buy it. Comes in a paint can, and that's the kind of glue that I use the most. Just because if I run out, I can run to town and get another jug of it. Maker's Leather Supply has a real good contact cement that they're selling that's really good, and I've used it. My only deal is I need it in a bigger container. I used to also buy a different type of contact cement from a manufacturing company here in town that sold it in a 5-gallon bucket. And it was expensive for that. I think it was like 150 bucks for that bucket, but it would last me a month or 2 whenever I had other guys working with us. So the glue type, if you're a barge man or something like that and you like that kind of glue, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. You can sure use it. But I haven't had any trouble with there's the stuff from Lowe's, the contact cement from Lowe's. It comes in a gallon-sized jug. And I haven't had any trouble with it. I've had some people ask if I thin this down because it's pretty thin. Barges is really thick most of the time for me, at least the stuff that I've used in the past, and I don't mind barge. It's expensive and you've got to ship it to me and all that kind of stuff, and there sometimes can be some issues with that. So that's why I mainly quit using it, but it is a little thick, and barge makes a thinner that you can use. But I've used just regular acetone. I keep a gallon of acetone in here, so if I do come back after a few days, or maybe I didn't seal this good or left it open or something, it starts to thicken up on me, you can just give it a splash or 2 of acetone and stir it up and it'll thin down that glue for you. Just makes application a little bit easier, makes it a little bit nicer. But another thing that we do in the shop, just something that I found worked better for me, is I'll take some athletic tape or something like that and tape up the handles on these. The handles are really thin, and for some reason, even one that's this kind of thin here, if I'm gluing a lot of stuff, it kind of just hurts my hand just because it's so narrow. It's like a pencil thickness, and so I like to make it just a little bit bigger circumference so that it's just a little more comfortable to hold, and also gives you just a little bit more grip instead of that smooth aluminum handle. So that's something that I do. But really, there's no magic about them. There's other glue pots on the market too. There's one that's, I don't have any here. My brother used to use one building boots, but it's like a plastic jug, and then you have a brush that sits down in the bottom. Those are really good, actually. He had really good luck with that, and I think he still has one like that, and they worked really good. You can also take and buy just a quart size thing of barge, and if you're a small crafter, that may be what you're doing, is buying the quart size. And when you buy that, even from Maker's Leather Supply, theirs does that too. And you take the lid off, it's got a little brush inside there. Take that quart size can and take the lid and break that, somehow just break that little brush off of the lid of that can, and then take a screwdriver or chisel and bust a little square hole in the very top where that brush was. And then you go to Lowe's or Home Depot or something like that and buy a chip brush, which is just a really cheap wooden handled brush. They're usually like $1. This is a 2-inch, but you'll want a 1-inch chip brush, and they're really handy just to have in the shop in general. So I'd recommend buying a little handful of those. But they're like $1 a piece or something. But you want to buy the 1-inch little chip brush, and then put that lid over the top of that. That brush works really well for big application of glue, you can put the lid back on, and the brush will stay down in the glue, so your brush will always be soft. And we used to use that when I was learning to build saddles. That's what my mentor taught me, and that's what he used. And his can looked almost like that. He had had it for quite some time, and it sealed good, it worked good. So that's something to think about too if you don't want to spend. I think these are like 40 bucks or 30 bucks or something like that. If you don't want to buy one of these, you can sure use a leftover can. You know, once your barge runs out, just buy you some contact cement from either Maker's Leather Supply or Lowe's or something like that, and just refill that can. Put you a 1-inch chip brush in there, and you'll be off to the races there. You'll be ready to go. Okay, so this is my glue table. So all this is just a piece of cardboard, and so we built this little table just for the size and shape of it. It's about 2 foot wide by 6 foot long or so, and it just fits here fairly well, fit in the other shop fairly well. It doesn't take up a lot of space. It's built fairly light. It's not a real heavy table, thin plywood on top. You're not hammering on here. You're not banging around on here. All this table is for a little bit of storage on the bottom, and then for gluing on the top. It's kind of a dedicated space where we can do our glue work, and you don't have to get glue all over your bench or all over your cutting material, anything like that. And so this is kind of where I glue up all my parts. So if I'm plugging skirts, I can glue, you know, all my skirt pieces, all my plugs, all my skirts, everything on this one table, and I've got plenty of room. So I put down the cardboard, just an old cardboard box. I think these were made out of leather boxes for when our leather comes in. I just cut them to fit and just nailed them into place. And over time, you get this layers and layers of excess glue. And it works really well just to kind of keep stuff from sliding around once you're gluing. When you're gluing something on here, you've got your glue pot in one hand and you're gluing something. It won't really roll around a whole lot because it does have semi-tacky feel to it. And you don't really have to worry about it transferring anything or anything like that. Now, if you do glue something wet that's been misted down on the back, or maybe hasn't dried all the way after tooling, and you go to glue, and if you press a little hard, it will leave indentions because this is very rough and very bumpy, as you can see in that clip. So what you got to be careful with is if your leather is kind of wet or not fully dried after casing and tooling, is to not put it on here to glue it down, or at least to let it dry really well first, because you will get impressions if you're pressing really hard. But yeah, I've used one of these for a long time. I used to just glue on my bench or wherever I was, you know, or hold the thing and try to get glue. And this is a lot easier, as you can throw all your parts down, apply your glue. You got your workbench still free to work on something else, and you're not tying up your workbench waiting on glue to dry. So I highly suggest having you a separate glue bench, glue table, something, even if it's just a little end table there in the corner of your little shop or whatever. Put a piece of cardboard down, and that way you got something to glue on. Because within reason, if I needed to get rid of this bench or something, or it broke, or I don't know how, but if something happened, I can take this cardboard and just bust the nails loose, and it's got so much glue on it, it's pretty well looks like a hard piece of material. I had a lot of people asking where I got this, and you know, what kind of material is that, and where do you get it? It's literally cardboard boxes with glue on it, years of glue on it. So when you first start one of these, it's going to be kind of nerve-wracking because your cardboard's real slick, and so things will slide around as you're trying to glue, so you'll have to hold it down. But over time, like I said, you'll get you a little layer of glue on there and stuff like that. And again, that's not mandatory. It's just what we use in the shop, and that's why it looks the way it does. I would say if you want to throw that cardboard away when it starts looking bad, that's absolutely fine too. A lot of guys too will just use the paper that your leather's rolled up in, roll that out on your bench if you're trying to conserve space. Roll that paper out, do all your gluing on that, then roll that back up and throw it away or put it up so that you have it for next time. That works fine too. But it's just something to keep the bench clean. You know, if I wanted to repurpose this bench for something else, I can take this cardboard off and it's not a table with glue all over it that I've got to trash. So that's kind of an advantage to the glue table and what this material is made of. And if you want one like this, you'll have to put your own 5 gallons of glue on it over a 10-year span. So that's about all I've really got on my glue pot. I mean, I know there's a lot of conversation. There's usually a lot of conversation about the glue pot and stuff like that. But so these are really good. I really enjoy them. You don't have to let yours get as nasty as this. It's just a nature of the beast, I guess. For me, I'm not real good about keeping it clean and keeping the stuff off. But if you've got one that's brand new, you can see that it's fairly easy to kind of peel some of that stuff off occasionally and just keep it a little bit more tidy than I keep mine. Some advantages of mine too are if I've got it sitting in my drawdown stand where I'm gluing something, I can kind of set it down in there, and with all that glue on there, it's kind of a grip so it won't slide off or fall off. I set it in the saddle seat or in my ground seat to glue something on the front or something like that. It's got a little grip on it and so it doesn't slide around. There's really no big advantage to it. It's just laziness on my part, really, is all it is. I just don't keep it clean, but I just kind of gotten to where I like it, and so I leave it like that. It doesn't really bother me. I can always find my glue pot. Used to in the other shops, everybody would steal somebody's glue pot or something like that, and you couldn't find yours, or what is this, yours or mine or whatever. This one I always know it's mine, so I don't have to really worry about it. If you're in a one-man shop and you want to keep your stuff clean, by all means, keep it clean. So when you are using this glue, just be sure and do it in a ventilated area. Be sure that you open a window or something like that. I've really noticed it in this new shop because it's so well insulated and enclosed, and the roof is lower. All my other shops had exposed rafters. We really didn't have a ceiling, like a drop ceiling or anything. And so I think a lot of the glue fumes would rise, up in the rafters. And we didn't notice the overwhelming smell as much. In this little shop now, I notice it a lot. And especially if I'm gluing sheepskin or gluing plugs or something like that, it gets pretty stout in here. This isn't a very big building, so it doesn't take a lot of gluing to get it to really fill up in here. So what we try to do is open the side door and open those windows and get a cross breeze through here to kind of clear some of that out. I want to create a vented hood type system over my glue table eventually that'll have a fan or exhaust fan that'll suck the fumes out. Since I'm already gluing in one designated area, it's very easy to just build a hood over that table and duct that through the attic of the building, and then take that exhaust out to where I'm not overwhelmed by the fumes in the shop, because they can get pretty overwhelming. Be sure if you're gluing and you're in a small little shop, be sure to open a window, get a fan in that window or something to suck the glue fumes out of there, and just try to do as much safety as you can, especially when you're dealing with this type of product. Just like anything else, just use good judgment. We really appreciate y'all watching. We just got back from vacation, so we're back at it, hoping to get some more videos out in October for sure, and keep that rolling. I want to thank everybody for all the feedback on the clutch wallet video. That was a really good one. Y'all seem to really enjoy that one, and I'm loving seeing all the posts that y'all are doing on social media, Instagram. A lot of people are tagging me with the ones that they made, and it's great work. You guys are really doing a good job, and really putting in the time and creating some good pieces. So we're really enjoying watching that. I don't know what the next project video is going to be. I don't know. Hoping to get another one out in October, and I'm going to try to do a few more tip videos too. If you got any comments or questions, or you need anything, don't hesitate to shoot me an email.